Q&A session, and just raise a hand, and I'll pick somebody to ask a question of anybody at the panel, and they'll do their best to answer for you today. Who's up first? They got a question? Right over here.
Mike, can you tell me about power bodybuilding?
Yeah, the philosophy is getting the body to adapt to pressure it's put under, but for a long period of time. So not just for a year, or not when you're just dieting, or when you're on season, but continuous throughout life. So you stay healthy longer, have a longer career.
Thanks. Another question? What was that?
Breads and sugars, cutting out breads and sugars.
Cutting out bread.
Cutting out breads and sugars. Who wants to answer a diet question up here?
As in what? Just cutting it out in general? Like for a competition? Yeah, so I don't understand the question though. Like, should you cut it? Or how far out should you cut it? Yeah, it would depend on what your diet already is consistent of. Some people do diet with starchy carbs, like I do. I don't remember the last time I've eaten sweet potato. I always use baked potatoes. And then if you're using that to carb up, technically it's never cut out. So it's kind of like a vague question. It would have to pertain to like a bodybuilding show. Is that what you're saying? Like when should you cut it out for a show?
Yeah, so if you're trying to cut fat to build muscle, should you start out like cutting carbs?
Oh, you just mean just in general? Yeah, not for competition. If you're trying to gain, then I would implement as many as possible. I wouldn't cut them until it's time to try and cut weight. And then even then, I would never even just cut carbs completely. You should, if you are, you would have to be doing like a keto where you're upping your fats. But a carb cycle would be more a realistic diet to do if you're trying to still maintain that muscle while losing the fat. And then again, you would have to go off of how your body reacts to it. Some people do 3 days high and then 1 day low, or vice versa. Well, 1 day high and 3 low. It depends on how hard it is for you to cut.
Do you like breads?
I just kind of cut it out. I've been trying to get lean this summer.
But do you like breads?
I started doing keto for like 2 months, and then I started losing muscle. So now I started adding more carbs. Like after a heavy training day, I'll have my carbs.
I think, I don't speak for everybody, but I think a lot of us are trying to do this for a longer period of time, so we don't cut a lot of stuff out in the off season. I have bread and sugars during the off season because I know I can maintain that. If I start cutting out tons of things like the fad diet and cutting out breads, I'm not going to be able to do this longer than 3, 5, 6 months. And this is something I've been doing for a lifetime, but it's because I have pastas and breads, and when you get ready for a show, then you cut back and get ready for it. So I'd always do a cycle in the sense of use it for a while, and then get rid of it. But your body adapts to change. So if you start just getting rid of carbohydrates and getting rid of that, you're changing the way your body functions in a long period of time. So.
Does everybody know this is paint? It's not a suit.
What are you talking about?
So, okay, because a lot of people get confused on diets and they're thinking they want to just lose weight, but it's different than that and get ready for shows. So if you just want to lose body fat, that's one, but if you want to get ready for a pro show, like I can beat all the IFBB pro wheelchair bodybuilders around the world, but what people don't understand is why people get fat in the first place. So they say simple or complex carbohydrates, they get so caught up in that, but don't even worry about that, because the science of the body is 5 grams of carbohydrate equals 1 teaspoon of sugar, which is equivalent to 20 carbohydrate calories. Now the food pyramid, right, it got 60% of carbohydrates. So if 60% on a 2,000 calorie diet is actually 1,200 carbohydrate calories, okay? So follow that. So that's 1,200 calories. So 1,200 divided by 20 equals 60, which means the diet on a base is 60 teaspoons of sugar. And then you gotta ask yourself, well, how much sugar does your body actually have to, take in? And the reality is just 1 teaspoon of sugar. Now, you eat more. So it's going to be up to you to do stuff, to exercise, run, swim, lift, whatever it is, to burn off the excess carbs. Because what happens is if you don't do that, it's going to stick on body fat. Because a carbohydrate is a fancy word for a sugar. And so when those sugars are in your stomach, think of it as a conveyor belt going into your bloodstream. How much sugar does your body allow? It's only 1 teaspoon of sugar. Any more than that goes in your bloodstream, you'll die. That's the physiology of the body. That's the science of the body, but few people actually know that. So what happens is when you eat all these carbohydrates and you add all this excess body fat, that means you look yourself in the mirror and excess body fat just means that your body saved your life because it didn't allow those excess carbohydrates, excess sugars to go in your bloodstream. So your body releases insulin, known as the fat storage hormone, to pick up all the excess sugars and store in the body fat. So how do you lose body fat? The more squishy you are, that means you eat more carbohydrates. So basically you are what you eat. Think of eating a chicken. You know how you poke a chicken? It's kind of hard. So eat more of that, and that's how your body's going to be. If you eat more mashed potatoes, you know how you poke a mashed potato? That's that. So as for competitions, everybody has different coaches. I work with George Farrell, Honey Rambo, a bunch of other pro trainers in the world. And a lot of them, I eat white rice. A lot of people say just eat brown rice, I eat white rice. Some people eat baked potatoes, I eat red potatoes. So it just depends. Sometimes they eat yams, sweet potatoes, so it just depends.
Seems like it takes forever, and I eat clean for like 4 months, and then I'll eat carbs like after any training. It's like I take your body like 4 months after.
So he says his results take a lot longer. Let's get specific so that I'll give you the difference between the amateurs and the pros. So what's your meal one? Let's dissect you. So meal one, what do you have?
3 eggs and a hamburger patty in the morning.
So he does 3 eggs and a hamburger patty. So that's what he is. So why you don't get results? So me, I have 60 grams of protein powder, okay? That's protein, not how much you weigh. I take 100% optimum whey protein. So I take the powder, I weigh it on a scale, and that comes to 78 grams of net weight, as well as a half a cup of oatmeal. Most people do the half a cup, I take 40 grams, exact. And I'll eat it up, and you see that residue in the bowl? I take water and put it in there, because you don't waste it. So if you want to get results, you have to be exact. And when you cook your food, you gotta cook it. You gotta weigh your food after it's cooked, because of the water. So you got to understand those details, and that's what's going to get you results. The reason why you don't get results is you're not paying attention to the details, and the details matter.
Excellent. Another question? Right here.
How do you maintain your ability when you're lifting?
I'll answer some of that. For me, I do it the range of motion. I try to get as far range of motion as possible. I know that bodybuilders do kind of a short range, keep it on there. Powerlifters do a much more fuller range, and I'll overextend to keep my flexibility using the weights in the correct way, with the proper amount of weight.
It's a biomechanics. It's a biomechanic thing. You know, your joints and ligaments are only able to handle certain inertial forces. And what I see a lot with guys will be taking weights and they're throwing it up, but they don't realize when you whip the weight up, you're going to have the inertial force of the weight coming back down. Then you have to use your joints and ligaments and bones to stop that inertial force coming downward. And that's when the injury occurs. And people sometimes will get what we call overextension injuries because they will extend too much with too much weight. So really less is more. That's why, even though Mike does a lot of heavy lifting, he's very careful on his biomechanics. If you watch the way he lifts, even though he's doing heavy poundages, he is controlling the weight. The weight's not controlling him. I just want to make a comment about the gentleman over there who was talking about foods. I come more from a medical background, so I don't have the knowledge these guys do in terms of, how much protein to take, this or that. The only thing I can say in general is that the environment we all live in now is very different than the environment of the past. We live in a toxic environment. You have GMO, genetically modified organization food. You have GMO foods, you don't have natural foods. And that then branches over, so it changes. Like if you buy an apple, they have a little code on the apple or on the food. If it doesn't say 9, it means it's not organic, even if it's in the organic section. And there's codes on these things that will tell you if something is fully organic or not. Organic really just means carbon compound, but really it's a matter of the preservatives that are put in. Now, you had Monsanto, which invented the GMOs. Then Monsanto was just bought by Bayer. Okay? So now you have larger, you have Roundup, which is a fertilizer that it's highly carcinogenic, and now Roundup takes more advertising on the internet, on YouTube, on general commercials saying Roundup, trusted for 40 years. Yeah, 40 years for causing cancer. Okay, and so you've got this toxic environment. Now we have another thing that's coming, G5. You guys all heard about G5 with your phones. You don't realize G5 is like a microwave. Okay, so now they're putting G5s all over, except certain countries like Brussels and elsewhere in Cuba, and other countries are actually banning G5. Yes, G5 will be more effective, but they have developed military instrumentation where from 7 football fields away, you can use that same G5 technology to make people feel like their skin is burning off. So these are some of the issues that you're dealing with. So you're not living in a normal environment that we grew up in. We did not have all this electromagnetic radiation. We did not have a G5 all around us. We did not have genetically modified foods like we have now. Otherwise, you wouldn't need to enrich the food or enhance the food. The food would already be healthy, but all the soil is depleted. So it's not just the carbs and these things you have to accommodate, and that's why larger vitamin levels are important when you take your nutritional supplements as an antioxidant, grabbing those free electrons and cutting back on the chemical rusting that our body goes through those biochemical reactions. So I don't have the knowledge base in terms of foods. I mean, I eat an apple or I eat a protein bar or whatever, but from the medical end, I'm seeing what's behind that curtain, and that's sort of the way I look at it.
Basically, you can't squat 600 he doesn't MD.
Hey, you got something in this hand, what that got?
Anybody else got a question? Go ahead.
Okay, so just a general bodybuilding question for you. So I'm 25 years old, been lifting pretty seriously for about 5 years, and I'm looking to get into competing and stuff like that. So how would y'all go about finding like a coach and using that?
I think Shanique's talking.
1 second.
I would definitely look around, ask some people. If you have any friends who actually compete, definitely talk with their coaches. It's good to get a feel on the coach's knowledge and what they can do for you, because there's a lot of coaches that just will give you whatever kind of plan, a cookie cutter plan, and they won't really follow through with it. They won't keep up with you, check-ins per week or bi-weekly. You need to make sure your coach is there for you 100%. So definitely talk, look around, get some advice with coaches, and that'll definitely give you more of a better outlook.
I would just figure out what kind of class too that you want to compete in, and then sometimes coaches specialize in those classes too. But like Shanique said, definitely if you have a friend or some people that compete, if you could kind of look at their diet or their feedback, and that would be the number one thing to look out for, is what she said, is how much attention that they give you, because sometimes it's just copy and paste when you really should have someone that's making a diet for you and not you around the diet. Do you have any interest in what class you want to compete in?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a larger training size, so probably not
And how long have you been training?
for about 5 or 6 years, seriously.
Have you been to a show before?
I think there's a show before.
But you've watched shows before, right? So you like the classic physique better, and it's by height, right? So do you have any friends that do compete in classic? Yeah, maybe at the gym that you train at. There might be some local people.
I'm at university right now, so the culture there is a lot less.
You can even ask people on Instagram too, is advice. There's a lot of common people, although they're intimidating, just ask around. It definitely helps.
So, what do you like? When you see the guys on stage, what do you like? You like bodybuilding? Which division do you like? What's drawn to you? Choose.
Yeah, so I'm more of a leaning towards like mass rather than.
So then you're a bodybuilder. That answers your simple. Don't listen to other people, listen to what you're doing, because you're going to be training for this. You're going to die in and out. So if somebody tells you to do classic physique, but deep down you want to be a mass monster, then choose that. Quit listening to them and do what you want, because that's what it is. And if you're going to do bodybuilding, the judge is going to dissect your posing. So not only have a diet coach, but have a posing coach, because everything matters. Because when the judges, they've been around a long time. And I know many of the pro judges. And the simplest things, it's all about illusion. Because the simple things, you duck in your thumb. See that? Most people don't know that. So if a bodybuilder keeps their thumb out, that means they have a big hand. But if they tuck their thumb, it's a small hand, right? So in bodybuilding, the judges will compare your arms to your biceps. It's that simple. And what they're looking for is the bicep to go over the deltoid because it brings out the back more. Those matter. As for posing coaches, get multiple because not all the posing coaches know. So like a real lat spread, right? You see how a real lat spread? Most people want a big back, a wide back. But a lot of posing coaches don't know. One of the ones that they learned, the posing coaches have other posing coaches that are friends, they all talk. So if you want a wide back, you know how they do the real lat spread? How do you make your back wider? You take your hands and you force your waist in smaller. So if you don't force it, you can have a back like this, but if you force your waist in, it creates illusion. So I'm just telling you these, so look out for posing coaches, because if you don't know what you're doing, the judges will dissect you, anything. Ask Brad and Lane, they're judges, and they get spotted instantly. So when you walk out there on stage, they're gonna look at you and see if you're confident, your stage presence, right? But also when you hit a pose, they wanna see if you're a professional as presenting your physique. Because if you don't know how to pose and you look amazing, you're not ready to represent the highest level, okay? So you want to represent to the highest ability that you can. But it's up to you to decide to find who that is. Go online, look YouTube, perfect posing, Gary Udit. He got some mullet kind of thing. He's one of the top judges still to this day, and he talks about the thumb tucked and certain things, because that's how I learned how to pose back in 2005. And that's how I competed at nationals and so forth. But you can just teach yourself too. But then when you get to level higher ones, and also talk to the judges around here. If you're from here, a lot of the judges also will help you pose.
So what's your name real quick? Nick, I want you to meet Stan. This is my #1 recommendation for a coach in powerlifting, bodybuilding, nutrition, or anything. And life.
You're in my services. In the back, you had a question.
Yeah, I just had a question for everybody on the panel. Your best, funny, successful failures about peak weeks that you guys have done coming up to become a pro. So if you had a really...
Let's send that on over to the champion. Peak week. Challenges.
Like your successful ones and your worst ones you've had.
My worst peak week was actually my last Olympia. My carbs were super low. And it's kind of hard to just focus, period, but you have certain things that can get you by. Well, you can have cucumbers with, like honey mustard, that's my favorite to curb my hunger, or just kind of...
It's not take this one. But I think you're asking more like stories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like peak week stories?
Yeah, he wants to hear an embarrassing story.
I don't really have any peak week embarrassing stories. I'm just super hungry during
Yeah,
peak
she's
week.
just perfect.
Stop. That's really it. And peak week is just, it's the last week, kind of just focused and ready to just get it over with. Pretty much, yeah.
It's one of those things is I think she was going into the beginning there is it's tough sometimes, depending on how hard you're dieting, and emotionally tough. And that, man, the great thing about that is if you got a support crew around you, this is a mental battle, I think, when it comes to bodybuilding and creating that physique, because we're pushing our bodies to such a different level on nutrition, and that plays with your mind. So a lot of the peaks and valleys of that bad boy is the mindset and how that food plays with you mentally. For us, we love that battle. I think I can speak for everybody. We like that battle, regardless of how tough it is, because after the fact, we're different people. It's like competing in martial arts, man. You may be nervous going in, may be scared, but you freaking love it, and you come out a different person after it. So and that's what I mean. You can go into this a little deeper.
Well, not from the bodybuilding area, because and by the way, people thought that Mike, I sent the picture of Mike on stage, and they thought he was wearing a suit that was puffed out. They didn't realize that was his real body. It's pretty.
It stands.
I can't speak from that area, but the only interesting kind of peak week, I've done a lot of world records and stuff, but my most fun kind of weird experience is when I was in high school. I ended up breaking my coach's shoulder, so then I had to become the coach. So I was in the ghetto high school, so I had a coach, and we couldn't even afford uniforms. I had to wear shorts and a t-shirt and pro-ked sneakers. So we couldn't even afford regular uniforms. And and we couldn't afford mats, so we used to have these mats that we tie together with rope. When they spread apart, you hit the wood, and that's how I broke the coach's shoulder. So when I was training for the New York Championships, I had to lose 25 pounds in only 2 weeks. So I lost all this weight. I was completely dehydrated, a real mess. And then we have to take the train into the city. So I got to take all the ghetto kids, me and the whole homies, we're going into the city, taking the A train and trying to not to get mugged on the way going into the city, because we got to go through Bed-Stuy and all these nasty areas of New York. And we get there, and so I had to wrestle 6 guys, and by the 6th guy there was nothing left. I had nothing left. And at the end, when I won, I passed out cold right after the champions. They couldn't even give me the trophy. They had to wake me up. And then after that, my big meal was, and I'm going back before a lot of you were born, I used to eat milk bones that dogs would eat, because I figured if a dog is strong, then I should eat milk bones. And my cheat meal was a box of scooter pies. Now, you guys might know what scooter pies are, but they're chocolate covered with graham crackers with fluffernutter marshmallow in the middle, and they're this big. And I ate a big box of scooter pies after. That was my cheat meal. Threw up. Took the train home. That was my big peak day.
That's a good story.
We revised the vertical diet to include scooter pies and dog treats.
So you're looking for a coach who's got you.
That's still not working.
Yeah, mine's not so funny. At New York Pro, which is the 3rd biggest show in the world, my first pro show, I forgot my posing trunks. And
Please tell me you just went anyways.
I just did body paints. It's good. But no, I'm literally, I don't know, I'm weird. I don't like walking around with them on. I usually put them on last minute, especially with the tan, get all over them. So I literally am lining up with my shorts, have my book bag, go in there, and they're not in there. So luckily, my best friend is from Chicago, where I'm from Chicago, and we drive like maniacs, and he was able to drive to the hotel and back somehow. I mean, it had to have been 8 minutes, and got the trunks, ran back, and my best friend gave them to me as I was lining up. Someone was right before me, and I was the next person on. So I got lucky. But yeah, sometimes you go brain dead, and that's why, back to talking about coaches, you should have someone who's doing your prep, and that's kind of like a rule I always think of is, if your brain is capable of working at the end of your diet, then you probably aren't nailing your condition. You really need to be brain dead, and that's sadly, that means that you're pretty on. So that was just a sign that I was definitely on, and shocker, I won. So maybe that's the key, is to be completely brain dead.
So, I'll give you a couple bad stories, because there's tanning, right? And then I'll tell you the transition to being at the elite level. So, for my first show, it was the 2006 NPC Wheelchair Nationals, and when I was getting ready, I was paranoid because of tanning. I didn't know what I was doing. I was new, right? So everybody kept saying, the darkest tan looks light on stage. The darkest tan looks light on stage because of all the lights, right? It's gonna be light. So I'm like, oh crap, right? So at the time, you got different tanning products and stuff, but then they allowed Dream Tan, which is now banned, because you open the container, it's like black tar. So I did the morning show, but the night show, everybody saying, the darkest tan looks light on stage. So I was paranoid. So I had a whole container, like the Dream Tan. I told somebody, just put this on me. They're like, how much? I'm like, the whole container. So at the time I put it on, I looked like a gold statue. It was a learning experience. I never did it again after my life. But the transition to the diet, you really gotta see what works for your body, because at one point at the 2010 NPC Wheelchair Nationals, it was the USA's, I went with the keto, low diet, low carbs, and I looked horrible on stage. I almost quit then because I looked like crap. I was like, this is like horrible. It's like, I looked fat on stage, and I just dreaded it. And something in me says, just keep going, you can do it. So then when I hit rock bottom, I reached out to George Farrar. And then he believed in carbs. I was like, man, I don't know about this carbs, because carbs don't react, because I'm sitting down. My cardio is limited, trying to do this kind of stuff. It's like, how do you do cardio and all this stuff? But he wanted carbs, and I was hesitant. But something inside says, just believe in his method. And I believed in it. And eventually I dominated everybody at the Nationals, the 2011 NPC Wheelchair Nationals, and I won. Because I learned from low carbs is not the way to go for the keto or the higher fats. It's not me. It is for some people, but you gotta just fast forward. But learning, You got to see which coaches work for you, because so far George Farrar was so much, but then I decided I wanted to seek more knowledge. Nothing against George, I wanted to learn more from the pros. So then I went with Hon Rambod. So then I started training with him for a few years. And his methods were similar, but they're different. The details mattered because of the peak week, because what happens is he fed me certain proteins, but then at the beginning of like on Saturday, the carbs were low. And most people carb up on Friday, which that's a mistake because it's delayed reaction, right? So you hear mix and match. They normally start midday on Wednesday, both George and Honey. So it goes from nothing to like this, and then carbs are like this. Whereas the water's high on Sunday or Saturday, 2 gallons, then it drops down to barely anything. So it's a reaction in your body, right? But then there's little techniques that Hani told me that nobody ever did, which a specific amount of ketchup at specific times. So those details, that's his knowledge, was enhanced. George did something different, but Hani's methods work. And working with him, with a specific coach, gave me the knowledge, because the guy I was going against, he was a pro before his accident. Nobody's ever beat him in the world. Everybody feared him. Me, my accident was in 2000. I was borderline suicide. My weight went up to 300 pounds. I was heavy, but trying to lose it all. But then trying to figure out, how am I going to beat this guy that's a pro before his accident, that he's in a wheelchair? How am I going to be the guy in the wheelchair that's a beast, suicide, to dominate him? And at that show, he ended up getting third, and I dominated everybody with the perfect score, because I felt so confident in who I was working with and his knowledge, because of understanding I gave faith. So that's really understanding the diet aspect. Get with somebody, because you may think you can do your diet, but when you look at your body, you look at the things that you want to see. The coach looks at you and sees the big picture, but it's up to you to do the work and also have the stage presence when you get on stage.
Got one right back here.
So I know the vacuum pose isn't a mandatory pose. I just want to know your thoughts and opinions on it on stage, just in general, or if it should transition, like at least classic.
You said it's not a mandatory, the vacuum pose. You said it's not mandatory?
No, it's not a mandatory. I just want to know your
I thought they did just make it mandatory for classic.
They did.
I thought that's what the whole gripe about
Yeah,
the bag.
I did. You have to do it now.
I thought that's why it's been a discussion for the last few months, is that they did implement that.
Oh, really?
And that's the whole thing, is that why should that, which is something maybe looks good on someone, be a mandatory for everybody. But like, what's our opinion on it? I don't know. Well, none of us do classes, so we never have to worry about that, thank God. I think it's something that every bodybuilder should do in general. The exercises, transverse muscles in your stomach are rarely used with bodybuilders today. But it being a mandatory pose, I think, I don't know, I disagree with that. We can talk about bodybuilders left and right, some of the greatest ever that didn't hit a vacuum on stage, but I bet you they were doing those exercises, by themselves on their own. I mean, I remember old books of Arnold and, Franco and them on all fours doing those exercises to try and work those muscles. But yeah, it's really just, if it fits your physique. Are you asking for yourself?
I was just asking in general. I didn't know they made it mandatory, but that's awesome. I like doing it. So.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. If you look better at it, you like it. I'm sure C-Bum is, Chris Bumfield, I'm sure he's all over it, where Brion's mad. So it's just, but then you can do apples and oranges all day, and that's really what bodybuilding is. No one's really wrong. No one who likes round muscle bellies is necessarily wrong, or you like a Jay Cutler over a Ronnie Coleman. That's the best example I can kind of give you, the difference. But I think that's what's getting messed up with bodybuilding today, especially with social media. I think that's the biggest issue with fitness industry today is social media. Yes, it gives us an outlet that we can reach people and change people's lives that my dad even could never do. But unfortunately, the whole sport is getting lost, and it should be. You have your preferences of your favorites, and you wear. I remember when I went to Mr. Olympia in Chicago when I was there. We were just talking about this, and I remember. I obviously don't know anything about bodybuilding, but I remember seeing Nasser, and I was like, oh my God, that guy's going to for sure win. And then another guy in the crowd is like, no, Sean Ray's going to win. And before you know it, these two guys in the crowd are arguing with each other. they're going at it, you know, and then it's cool.
The concept there is Sean Ray was a smaller guy, pretty physique. Nasty was a monster. Keep going.
And at the end of the night, Dorian wins. And then you see these two guys best friends, you know, now talking about how Dorian should have won. And I feel like that's like a fun part of the sport that's actually got twisted, and now people are getting attacked because of their preference in whatever physique it is. When I don't think anyone's wrong. I think when you start talking about condition and whose glutes are, you know, more shredded, that you can have fact. This person is more nailed their condition than the other. But whose physique is more pleasing to the eye, I just feel like that's being lost in today's sport.
Don't you agree that it's not a sport, but it's an art show, and it's whatever you prefer?
It is. I think it's the art of the body, yeah.
Like, I always thought Flex Wheeler and Ronnie Coleman that one year, I would have Flex, in my personal opinion, but that was my art piece. I liked Flex in that year over Ronnie, even though Ronnie was so much bigger. It just was a different physique, but it was an art piece for me. Both are right, both are wrong, you know, in the sense of art, but the sport was different.
Yeah, I think it's what's messed up too. Is not messed up. It's just human nature. Have you met Flex before that? Exactly right. Oh, and I think sometimes that plays into your opinion too. You meet people and they actually are such a great human being. It does, and it does make you generally like them. And that
I competed against Ronnie in powerlifting. I mean, was training with Flex, so I knew both and loved them.
Not yours as an example, just right in general. But it does.
I agree with you.
You'll see, and I say that when I do guest posts, it's the speech I try and give is that you need to have a few people in your life that will tell you the truth. You have in this sport too many yes men, too many people telling you you're the best. And yeah, you'll do a show and your mom's going to tell you you should have won. And it is. She's not wrong. It's just we have this like connection being humans, and it happens with judges too. You know, they make mistakes, and you see it a lot in the amateur rings too, where some judges are the coaches of certain groups or clubs, and they've met these people and seen them, you know, change their lives. And I try and give this advice to people all the time, is to pretend that judges don't know who you are. You could have been obese and have lost 200 pounds, and you for sure are the greatest person on stage. You have dealt with the biggest life outcome. But at the end of the day, that doesn't mean you're supposed to win the show. And that's the hard part. So exactly, it's just opinions. You like this, that person likes that. Nobody's wrong.
I think the great part there, and I know it's not the question you were asking earlier, but the one big thing is, and I believe this, is that if you're going in to win a show, and that's the ultimate goal, you may be disappointed and you may stop. But if you go in and try to be the very best physique you ever create, you take 15th, you take 15th, but that's your physique that you like over what the 9 judges tell you, then you'll continue this. But if you're always getting your beat down and you're like, no, why am I winning? You just don't have that physique to win it. You have a great physique for you and what you're trying to create. And as soon as you start changing and trying to appease 9 judges, do you understand what I'm saying? You're trying to appease them to get the trophy relative to appeasing yourself to create the physique you want. It's 2 different worlds. You're now doing this for somebody else and not doing it for you. The one you will continue, the other one you will not continue.
So here's the reality. You got 2 different things. Okay. First off, you said, which one do you prefer, the vacuum or the ab shot, right? So as for an opinion, it just depends on what you like. If that's what you want, if you look better with a vacuum, that's the vacuum. Me personally, I like the ab shot. But on some people, I like the vacuum better. That's a preference. That's the opinion. But now let's get to the reality. If you want to win the show, you learn the rules, right? So take bodybuilding, for example. It's like, why do people win and why do people lose, right? It's not just their physiques. It's the overall representing of the sport. When you look at the guy who said, you see his pictures, but pictures don't tell because it's an illusion, right? So it's like, well, this guy's bigger. Well, was he bigger? Or when he was on stage, was the guy behind him, right here, they're even, but the guy decided to move up about 4 inches. So when you hit the pictures, in the pictures, this guy looks bigger, but in reality, he is. Who's smarter? The guy on the right. Because who wins the show? It's whoever's the best the day of the competition. And it's a strategy. I'll give you an example. So then when people get on stages in bodybuilding, because you want to do bodybuilding, and you may do classic, or whatever you want to do, If somebody's going to hit a side chest and they hit the side chest, they may be focused on just, oh, they're going to look at my chest. But in reality, the judges want you to turn more because they're going to look on the opposite pec and the arm. But if that person's lack of knowledge, that shows that he's not a champion because he doesn't know what the judges are looking for. Because it's the overall aspect. Because how's his conditioning? Is he hard? Is he grainy? Is the overall aspect. But also his stage presence. How well does he flow? How well does he present his physique as he hits his poses? How confident is he in his transitions without even hesitating? When he's posing, is he smiling? Because a true professional will make a pose so extremely hard, but as he poses, smiles and make it look effortless. Because you're representing the NPC and the IFBB. Because this is also a business. But yes, they want the best of the best. But in reality, the judges are nothing but people with their opinions. And who wins a bodybuilding show? Do you ever notice how they score? Can you read the scorecard? Most people don't. And if you look at the scores, if there's 9 judges, like Mike said, there would be 7. The perfect score would be 7. We're like, how is that possible? Because if you guys are 9, and he may think, well, he decides a 5th place, and he's still first, they're going to eliminate a high and a low. So then his score doesn't matter, his score doesn't matter, but these 7 count. So that's how they judge a score, because it's their opinion. Because first place means all the judges are saying, he's first, he's second, he's third. And when you talk to judges, and I've been around shows, it's easy to determine who's the winner backstage. Most shows it's very simple, but it's very rare that somebody's close because of how they present, and you can tell on their skin, their definition, and same thing. When you see this guy on stage, you can see it's like he brings it. It's very simple, especially backstage. You just know. And when you're at the New York Pro, did you have a vibe that you were going to win the show? Deep down, could you tell?
No, that show was a whole other story. That was a mess for me. I really wanted one-way tickets to New York. I just needed to finish that prep. I didn't even know if I was going to be able to get a flight back home. That whole competition is another story of my life. But generally, yes, you need to go into a show thinking you're going to win and you emulate it on stage. If it does come off, is what your point is, right?
Yeah.
I'm just don't use me as an example. I'm an emotional mess every show. If I don't cry, then I'm probably not going to win.
So that's the point. It's a mindset, because you can see he got distracted by the simple as just losing your posing trunks. Deep down, you're thinking, oh man, this show's going to be, I'm going to flop. Because you're not even worried about the show, but all of a sudden, all he's thinking is like, how am I going to get my posing trunks? So psychologically, his A game's not there, right? So somebody else is paying attention to all the details, has advantage, but he rose up to the challenge and he ended up dominating and win, and that's the point.
Awesome. We got 2 in queue, one back here, and then I'll get to you right afterwards.
It sounds to me like finding the right coach, training coach, is primarily a matter of chance or luck. Do you agree or disagree, whoever wants to?
I disagree. I feel like it takes trial and error to figure it out. I think it's luck that you find one on your first go, absolutely. But no, I think you should know who works well with you. I was just talking about earlier that I've been with Farah and Aceto, which are the 2, besides Hani, biggest coaches. And who knows more nutrition better? And you can debate that all you want. But sometimes someone's demeanor just even helps me. And like I was just saying, all the pressure and everything always comes down to me. It like literally waits till when I'm about to go on stage. And then I think I'm like realizing what's going on in my life. And I do. And I have this emotional breakdown every single show. And Aceto's demeanor is just so monotone and so calm. And I've never seen him freak out, that it actually does lower my cortisol levels. And that's actually science happening into my body because of how someone is. So I can tell the difference. This person works better for me. I think if you listen to too many people, or this person uses this person, and you like this physique and that's their coach, then you're gonna start playing with luck and hope that you're gonna find someone. But no, I think with trial and error, you should know. It's like a partner, any kind of partner. You either know or you don't.
I have 2 questions. So last week I competed in my first week competition and I medaled, but right before going on stage, I guess part of like the ritual of going on stage is to consume like all the sugars and donuts and got that pump that my coach promised I would get. So I went on stage feeling flat. So I want to know, are there better foods to consume, healthier foods to consume right before going on stage?
Definitely rice cakes, peanut butter on it. That's my go-to. There's actually a video of me backstage last year at Arnold eating rice cakes as I'm getting as we were getting oiled down. But definitely rice cakes, peanut butter, jelly sometimes, and Pop-Tarts. Yes.
Then you have a second question.
Wait, on the rice cakes, peanut butter, and jelly, now it depends, because if you're doing bikini, you gotta pay attention. You don't want to have that much veins and that much vascularity going, but you also gotta be very picky on the rice cakes. It's like the apple cinnamon, it's like apple. That's the only rice cakes that has no sodium. If you take sodium, it's gonna hold water, and you're gonna take your veins, and you're gonna be looking soft. Same thing with jelly. Don't just pick any jelly. Look at the back. It's all natural. It's normally the blackberry or blueberry that has 0 sodium. And then do the salt-free, all-natural peanut butter, and that will eliminate the water. Right. You want zero, very little sodium. But some coaches want you to take a bunch of sodium. That doesn't work for me.
Remember, dog biscuits is always good. Right? All right. Some yo-yo juice. And,
What was your other question?
So the other question is post-competition, I've been told to be very careful what I consume, so I'm on a reverse diet. And I'm trying to follow the reverse diet as religiously as it's given to me. But I've gone from, on stage I was like 95 pounds, and I've gone up to about 12 pounds since then. And I know some of it is water, but how do I continue not to go down that rabbit hole as I get restricted?
do you find that 12 pounds is it looks fat and you're blowing up, or are you filling out? Because the two things is you're filling out, right? And we'd love to stay contest ready, right? That depleted, and unfortunately, we're going to add some water back on that body. And if you are reversing out, just think of it the same way as you're dieting down for the show, that 12 weeks. Try to do it the same way, 12 weeks coming out of it, especially because you don't want to blow up. But you know, there's going to be water weight. Your body is reversing out. People think that you're the most healthy when you're getting ready for a show, but you're really, you're working off everything and you're dieting so hard, so the body is traumatized at that point. So you are going to come up a little bit.
All right, start with you.
Oh, Bruce.
You stand right down the row. What would you want us to know your single greatest accomplishment of all of you? What's still left on the playing field for you?
Well, I've got kids, 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds, so that's really all I focus on. I don't really look at any of the IFBB Pro card or the world records, powerlifting stuff. None of that really means anything in the grand scheme of things. And so what I look at in the future now is how do I provide for them, and that kind of the driver of my business. It's kind of the question that I really wanted to ask this group next, but I'll let you guys do.
I've had a number of setbacks, and getting to Olympia, had recently a retinal detachment surgery, and that stopped me from going to the 2017 Olympia. So last year was kind of just my comeback of becoming and being the reigning Miss Olympia. So that's something I want to hold for a number of years because of everything I've been through so far, and just winning was an accomplishment, period.
I think for me, there's two things. When it comes to the health and fitness world, I've been in the magazine since 1987, and I would say from day one, I did this my way. It was a very rare thing that I was doing back then, and I just stayed true to my way the whole career. Second thing is that outside of that in life is how, by just continuing to do what I do, the way I do it, without trying to motivate the world and yell at them and tell them when to get up, that I've been able to move people and help people without throwing it down their throats and change people's lives just by my actions.
Well, it's not really the sports, any world championship stuff. There's a few inventions. I invented some things that have saved, I'd say, about 30,000 lives now with organ transplant. So that's something that I'm kind of happy about. But one of the things I'm trying to do now, which is why I'm actually at this conference, is I've seen my good friend Mike and the Craigs, is trying to inspire young kids to realize we all fail. You know, somebody looks at an Arnold and go, oh wow, Arnold wins everything. No, Arnold failed plenty. I failed plenty. Everybody fails. And so the thing that I'm sort of enjoying doing now is reaching out to the kids out there and letting them know, look, you can do this, you got to do it for your own inspiration, and then you got to pass this art down like we do in the martial arts. We need to teach others that they can be better, that they can be more, that they can be healthier. And my goal for the future is sort of to try and come up with a cure for aging so we could have fun like this for another half a century or so. So I'm working hard on that one.
I'm on board. Let's do it.
Awesome, I'm glad I got to follow that. We got Miss Olympia, been in magazines since I was born, and saved 30,000 people's lives.
It's going to get emotional.
This one time? No. I would have to say actually doing the Olympia this last year, only just because it was the worst year of my entire life, and I was going through the worst times. And I barely qualified, and I did. And I think once I got there, I was just kind of so relieved that I just did it. I wasn't even really thinking about that I am the first second-generation bodybuilder ever in the history of bodybuilding to do the Olympia. And it wasn't until people were coming up to me and telling me that they haven't been to an Olympia since 1985 when I was born and held up all Lion King, Mufasa-like. And it was really cool to see that, yeah, there's so much more that goes on into bodybuilding. But when you're a competitor, it's just the next show. And this year it really taught me that there's just so much more important. But it's also changed my perception of kind of what I want from life. And I think I was so nervous, and I've always gone at this with so much pressure. And finally being at the Olympia this year and being picked to do the press conference. I only picked 11 people to do the press conference. That has nothing to do with my dad. That has to do with who I am, and I guess what comes out of my mouth. So that meant a lot too. But it just showed me that there's always a bigger picture. And if I can reach the Olympia, which is the Super Bowl of my sport, while also being the worst year of my life, then I'm now excited to see what I can do when it's not. So it just kind of changed how I look at things.
So I'm a bit different because mine is about the overall picture, the story, because I'm a professional speaker, because I strive to not to impress anybody, but to impress upon them. Because nobody really inspires me, but it's about taking things to the next level. Because I've been speaking for over 15 years, giving over 1,000 keynotes. I was actually on a speaking tour, speaking to thousands before I came here. I just flew from North Dakota. But I've competed against those over 250 times around the world. I beat everybody on the amateur and the IFBB Pro. In 2014, after I won that, things started to change because the IFBB Pro League wanted me to be the official voice for the sport of wheelchair bodybuilding for the NPC and IFBB Pro League. Because the ring that you see on my finger, it evolved to be able to work for Arnold and his team. Because I put on the pro wheelchair for the IFBB Pro League all over the world, as well as I work with the Olympic Committee, because I actually got the contract in my email right now about making the pro wheelchair added to the Olympia this year. I put on over 20 pro shows. But the point is, that just shows that if I can do it, you can do it too. Because I do Latin ballroom. My dance partner, she's not in the wheelchair, but we're the #1 couple in America. So we competed for Arnold Schwarzenegger, Dancing with the Stars, Pope Francis, and the list goes on. But it's about to inspire people to impact. Because 16 years, when I was 16, I was in a car accident. My left front tire blew out and I rolled my car 5.5 times. I was ejected and it left me paralyzed from the waist down. I got severely depressed. I was borderline suicide. I hated my life. But I didn't take my life because I looked at my mom. Because I grew up having nothing. We grew up in a trailer. At times we didn't have money, we didn't have food, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have water. We went to the lake to take the shower. But I overcame, because it's not about pointing fingers, but it's about pointing fingers at you, saying you can do it, you can make the difference. Because my friends didn't want to be my friends after I was in the wheelchair, because it was different, because I hated it. I'm named after my grandfather and my own family. A lot of my family told my mom to put me in a home to get rid of me, to be done. So my own grandfather refers to me as a cripple boy. But you got to realize that anything's possible, because the doctor said it would be physically impossible to walk in, but it took me 6.5 years to be able to just move my legs, which then took me 2.5, which then took me another 2.5 to be able to stand up, and then took me another 1.5 to walk the stage, because I wanted to graduate my college degree to walk to get my diploma. And if you look at videos, I point to the audience, and that point is to my mother to say thank you for believing in me. So fast forward, it's about you guys. It's about taking action to being the best you can be. So why do you do what you do? The why factor will get you through anything, the diet, the training. Because my why factor is my mom. Because she has cancer for over 7 years. I moved to San Antonio because that's where the better doctors is. And what's for the future? I invest with real estate and apartment complex because I do many different things with my life, not to impress anybody, but to show that if I can do it, you can do it too. Because hopefully you guys get something. Because when's the last time you looked at your parents and saying, I love you? What about your kids? When's the last time? Because it's not what you have, it's who you have in your life. Because that's the true value of life, is what you have and the time you have with.
I wanted to kick off and ask you guys the same thing. The industry's exploded in the last probably 7 years, like never before. Mike and I started competing back in the mid-'80s. And now it's given us the opportunity to have a platform through social media, with all the new involvement, physique, figure, bikini, and now even the other sports, CrossFit, powerlifting, strongman. It seems like we all come together now as brothers in iron, training or exercise. But we've used this opportunity, all of our experience, to monetize this business, to create an income. As you just left off with all the accomplishments that you made, I want to give everybody else in the panel an opportunity to share with you maybe a couple of key things that you do to make a living in this industry. If it's something you're passionate about, something you enjoy, which is the best thing to do in terms of work. I've run many companies in my life that I hated just to make money. And now I'm fortunate to be able to do something I love. So we are able to monetize in this industry. I started a meal prep company and I do personal training. And I want to go through and have each of these presenters here talk today about maybe some of the key things that they've done to help build an income and a business and a career out of what they do best.
I think you're done.
But just each of you, how do you utilize this opportunity, whether it be appearances or training or through goods and services that you sell that other people might be able to follow?
So they want to start with me, so it's the opposite. So the key is to use it as credentials, because if you have a product, a service, or something, the key is that's the platform. How many people you can reach. It doesn't matter how many people you can reach, but it's about how many people you can convert. Because what does that really mean? How do you convert people? It's to prove to them that you're worthy. And how do you prove to somebody that you're worthy? It's your credentials. Like, do you got competition titles? Did you win a beauty pageant? Are you a published author? Are you a speaker? Do you have your own company? What company? How many years of company? All those play a factor in you guys' mind, especially when you buy things. That's the key factor. But then, how do you guys take your passions and actually make it into a business? And that's really understanding the why factor. Because I talk about why people do something, and I'm big on that. Because why we do something is the actions that we take to make things happen. Because just like you do your hair, why do you do your hair? Some people do their hair because they want to look pretty. Some people fear what other people think. That's why they do what they do. And actually, how to become something, you actually just got to do something that you like doing. And when you do things that you like doing, you're going to be good at it. And when you're good at it, that shows passion. And when you have passion in something, regardless if it's competition or whatever, you're going to put your heart into it. So when you put your heart into it, even with the bodybuilding, with the poses and stuff, you just don't care what people think. You're just in your own little world. And when you're in your own little world, people are amazed by that. And people will believe in that. And that's what people buy. People buy you, not the things that you provide. Okay? That's the key. So if you want to be a superstar, you're going to work from the bottom on up by proving yourself through action, not talking. Because each and every one of these people on the panel, they either have competitions, degrees, or some sort of stats that have some sort of credential value. So if you want to understand their success, understand what do they do and why do they do it. Because just like this master MD, he has so many things, but the biggest question you would want to know is, why did this all start for him? Why? Why has he been in the medical field for so long? What fascinates him? What's his passion? Because that's the true answer that you need, because that's going to come from the heart. And that's why he became super successful, because he does it from the heart, because he wants to do it, not because he has to. He doesn't have to be here. He's here because he's volunteering his time. And that's what it comes down to.
Sergio, what opportunities are available for you? How do you monetize the industry that other people might be follow?
I've been talking about this for a while, that, Phil gets a lot of gripe in our sport. He was actually the first Mr. Olympia to be around on their social media. It was at the end when Jay was kind of on the way out. And I feel like that's what we're doing, is we're kind of learning as we go, as we get into this. And at some point, I would like to take the reins in the sport, and that will be something that I'll have to deal with, that my dad didn't have to deal with, social media. I'm just the complete opposite. I actually despise social media. I think a follower is a problem in the industry, and a fan is something that we need to appreciate more. A follower just hits a button, that's it. And the majority of the time, a follower could be even a hater or someone who actually dislikes you a lot, and they actually just want to keep tabs on you. So we get distracted with these numbers and these followers and these like, yeah, it's just actual numbers that don't mean anything. And now when you can buy followers and stuff like that, it's really hard to kind of tell the difference between the good people on social media that actually do. Like me, I answer every single DM I get. I'm an idiot, and I shouldn't, but I do, and I just feel like there's going to be at some point in that shuffle of 90 creeps, one of them is going to be someone who actually is looking for some help or some guidance. And I remember when I was getting into this, a lot of people think that because my dad was Mr. Olympia that I had a lot of help, but I did this completely on my own. And a lot of the times I would just kind of go to expos and I'd wait in hours, in the line to meet someone for them to tell me something that I thought I could use. And I remember so many times being so heartbroken by not getting the reaction that I thought. Now that I'm a pro and I see the other side of it, these guys are a few hours off from going on stage. You can't judge people off of when they're getting ready for shows and stuff like that. So sometimes social media is a big way that you could reach out to them, and they're not all depleted and stuff like that. So there's so many goods and bad that come from it. I just feel in today's day that it's becoming more important to have followers than fans, and that's something that I'd like to change in the sport. A lot of guys are now getting into the sport to figure out what they can get out of it. Like what your question is. Yeah, I have a clothing line, and I have things that I've been able to do only because of what I can do on stage. But I want to be known when I leave, even if I don't ever win the Mr. Olympia, I want to be known as someone who changed the sport. Either back to maybe something that we maybe preferred in the old day, or maybe a combination of both. But I don't want to get in, build a name, and then just make a business off of it, and that's it. I think that's why sometimes I'm mistreated the way I am, because I say it all the time. I'm only alive because of the IFBB. My parents met because they were pros, and I literally am only alive today because of it. So I want to give back to that. And I feel like the IFBB, the actual company, is my family, and I just want to be known as someone who got in and changed how it is on stage and off stage. I think that's a big thing, is that the physiques need to change a little bit on stage, and I would like to be a part of that. And the posing routines, I feel like, are non-existent. I want to bring that back. It's really cool. Arnold bringing the Ed Corney Award for the Arnold now. It's 10 grand. It's just a sign that there is still a want for the classic bodybuilding. So I would like to be that ambassador on stage, but also off stage too. I want people to be able to say that they've never ran into me, even at a grocery store, and it was just kind of just a bad experience. I want to be able to help anyone I can who's really, really willing to do this, because you have to be crazy to do this. You really do. To put yourself in the mental, like Mike was saying, because it's mental. We all think when we first start this that, oh, if I just eat this, do this cardio, lift this weights, I'm going to look like that. And then you do it, and then you realize that's what everybody's doing. That's not what separates people. The hard part is being able to mentally put yourself into a position where you're vulnerable and weak, and then thrive from it. And there's only a small percentage of people that can do that. So if I can just get in and get out, and people say, oh, because of that, we now care more about this, or he's changed this, would be my main goal that I would like to be known for.
I'm kind of a bad example here, because
you're so successful.
I donate all the 35 years of the IFBB as World Medical Chairman, NPC. Has always been volunteer. I've never been paid for anything. In fact, I refuse payments, and usually would fly myself, like I flew myself here. I usually like to handle my own stuff. But if I can give you guys, and having built over 50 companies, I started NASM and the anti-aging industry and all this nonsense. But if I can give you some business advice from the outside, having started all these companies, You want to look for a niche. You want to look for something that's not there. Like when there were no personal trainers when I started on ASM. There was no such thing as a certified personal trainer. It did not exist. So then I certified CPT, certified personal trainer. Now everybody uses that term around the world, so I just gave it away and let them just do whatever they want with it. But what you should do is you have to look for niches where there is a need. And then if you're going to price something, you need to price it at a point where a lot of people want it, because some people price things too high, like a luxury item, and they can't move it, and they can't figure out why they invested all this time and effort and money, but nobody wants this big conglomerate monster thing. So you have to pick your niche market, the need out there, and who wants this need. How can I price that need properly? What is my production cost to that need? Because if you're not getting the right multiple on it, whether it be a nutritional supplement, clothing line, whatever it is, and having done so much international business, if you don't pay attention to those aspects, it doesn't matter how good the product is. If you're ignoring your customer and also customer service, these guys are all very charismatic. Mike is a great speaker. Mike doesn't need to do this either. Okay, but he'll do the seminars. He'll take the time with the fans outside and walk the street butt naked, get pictures taken with everybody in the cold. But it's that type of charisma and taking and showing the people that you care about them. That's what makes the winners. That's why all the people up here are winners, because they're paying attention to the basics of human instinct, basic human needs. And by doing even something like Ronnie Coleman, Ronnie answers every email he gets, even in the wheelchair. He has always done that. I knew when he was an amateur competing, because I've seen all the kids come through the ranks when they were like amateurs, trying the local contest with Lee Haney, when he was a local kid going up all the way to the Olympia. So I've been able to follow them, and the ones that maintain a personality like these guys, who really genuinely care about people and genuinely like people, they're the ones that rise to the top, because people can identify with them and feel like, wow, this guy, I want to be like this person. I want to be like a Michael Horn or a Sergio or the other champion young lady up here, and of course Nick. So keep in the back of your head, what's the market need? How do I price it? What's missing? And then you have to have a dynamic equilibrium. You must always change and reinvent yourself over and over again. You got to be almost like Madonna. The big mistake is people get locked into buggy whips. They don't have buggy whips anymore for horses. There are no more buggies. So if you don't, and in this fast-moving technological environment, if you don't immediately change what you're doing, you're going to get wiped out. And even in I started the largest medical conference expo group in the world. We have had to reinvent ourselves almost every 2 years, or we would be bankrupt. There's a big medical corporation that was doing $200 million a year, but the pharmaceutical house, so they're making their money off the pharma houses. The pharma houses then changed their direction. This company that was doing $200 million a year went bankrupt in 6 months because there was a change in the marketplace and they're not prepared. And just like when I talked to the Lormers with the Arnold or the Olympia guys, the nutritional industry is changing dynamically. There's mergers and acquisitions, it's consolidating. The sponsors are not there. If you do not change with that and you do not diversify, you will die. And so you constantly need to evolve yourself, change it, and realize you're in a dynamic equilibrium that must always change. But the key thing is, what kind of person are you? And that's going to, just like these guys up here, and Mike is a tremendous example of that, of someone who, despite his fame and and his physical prowess and the things that he's done, he is a down-to-earth regular guy, and he's never lost that. And that I think is the most important characteristic we keep. I'm still a poor black child from the ghetto, in my head, because I grew up, I was the only white cracker in the neighborhood. Okay, I used to get mugged, like, just for fun. Okay, but in my head, and that's why, even though I got these big homes and stuff, I still sleep in the same $150 waterbed that I got when I was a student, even though I've got all these bedrooms. I still go to sleep now because I wake up poor every day, so I wake up hungry, starting each day that way. So you always have to keep that hunger, keep your sense of self, never get carried away egoically with thinking that you're really anything more than who you are, just another person, and you got to share your art and you got to share what you have with others.
I am only going to say, if you film that, they filmed it back there, that alone right today is worth just coming down. This man is truly successful and has been for decades and decades and decades. And I'm not going to add anything because you did it perfect there. That's beautiful. do this for the love.
That's it.
Do it for the love, man. You will continue to do it. And the money will come, all that kind of stuff will come. And I know people that have money say that, but it is true. You do it, you love it, everything else will come.
Sure. Pretty much what everyone said. As long as you love it, you want to help people do better. Like posing, just like Sergio said, posing is like art. So not a lot of people know that when you're posing, you need to pretty much broadcast all the hard work that you put in. Slow movements, not fast-paced songs. A lot of people like to use like the current new music when it should be like more old school, slower, like back in the day. I like to use like older music, which is much more appealing to bodybuilding posing, pretty much. But overall, as long as you love what you're doing, you want to help people succeed more in the exact same category.
Stan also is incredible at what you do. So, I mean, we'd love to hear from you too, because you created something just from your knowledge with the vertical diet that has exploded. I've known you've been intelligent and good looking. You know, I've had a man crush forever, but I'm just saying, this man too, this panel up here today, truly incredible. I've been honored to be up here with you guys. Always love hanging out with you guys. I think I told you this, but I've been in this industry so long that one of my first guest posters I ever got to see was your father. And I saw this man get out of a Cadillac up here in Washington, up in Everett. And I was a kid and I saw him get out and I go, whatever that is, that's what I want to do. He was like a superhero walking out to me. And now I'm on stage again with you. We've guest posed together, always an honor. And just what a panel.
You guys posed this show. Craig was telling me some stories. And that's also cool too. I got to guest post the same show my dad did.
Yeah, awesome. Anybody else have any questions as we?
Yeah, how many given school practice do you have?
I'm too old now.
I got three. But this man has more, a trophy. It's like trophy room's like 5,000 square feet. It's incredible.
Well, and what I heard as I went through and was listening to all of this is a lot what my experience has been as well. And what I've seen successful people in the industry do is they give a lot. And they get a lot back as a result. But they give first, they give a lot of information. He said about Ronnie Coleman responding to every email. I get 100 DMs and emails a day still and have for the last year since Go Down the Diet. And I make it a point to respond to everyone. Everyone that I meet in expos as I travel around is very thankful for that. And I didn't ask them for anything. I didn't know if they were a customer. And I'm hearing the same thing here. Provide people something that they want or need selflessly, and it comes back to you. And that's what we're seeing in this industry with the social media explosion, is that they'll then come to you. People will buy things from us simply because we gave them something for free that they wanted, and they'll buy something they didn't even want. And that's what we've seen happen a lot in the industry.
Hey, I want to tell you one funny thing. I wrote Ben Weider when I was 12 years old. You know, Ben started the IFBB. I'm a 12-year-old kid writing Ben and going, I want to try and be a doctor one day. And he wrote me back every year, over and over. I just donated all those letters to the museum in San Antonio, along with Arnold. All of us are donating. Jacqueline, we all donated our papers. And Ben wrote me back dozens and dozens of times until I became chairman of the IFBB Medical Committee. But before that, I wrote a big research paper when I was a student. I was just a kid. I was like 18. Wrote a research paper on anabolic steroids of how we need to be careful with this. And his whole medical committee said, this is crazy. This is just a kid. And they killed the paper. And Ben called me up. I still hadn't met him in person and apologized and said, gee, I'm so sorry, but my entire medical committee said that it's all nonsense. And so what happened was a few years later, I ended up taking over as chairman and got rid of the whole committee. and that paper, when it did get published, got translated into 60 languages, was the most popular report in the history of the IFBB. So Ben mentored me. Ben was one of my mentors, Reg Park, Jack LaLanne, Joe Weider. When you have mentors like this, you have people like this in your life. Just like when we saw Sergio, who I knew when I was in med school in Chicago, you have this remarkable ability where you can get these mentors
it's your responsibility to then mentor this next generation. And I know a lot of you are too young for that, realize, well, I'm just trying to get there myself. But you always got to keep that in the back of your head. How do I continue to give back to this whole? Because when you give, you get. And part of what a little thing I'll say tonight, I want to try and make that point across, is we have a responsibility to pass down our art and our knowledge so it does not die with us. And people, when they covet it and they hold it only, and I don't want to share this with anybody, they're actually cheating themselves out of the ability of legacy and perpetuity. They're killing their own legacy by doing so.
I think we're nearing the end of the Q&A today. Let's give them a round of applause.